Ole Miss dominated Kentucky. We talked to Tim Thomas a little bit, and he tells us how it happened.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hello, I'm Steven Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. He is Tim Thomas, former Ole Miss player who took many of a drubbing at Rupp Arena while he was at Ole Miss. I'm sure he enjoyed last night's game against the Kentucky Wildcats very much. Anyway, Tim, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Had a great night. I've been on this magical mystery tour for over 40 years playing with Ole Miss and watching Ole Miss, and that was the best half, as you mentioned before, the best half, offensive and defense, that I've seen Ole Miss ever play, and it was very enjoyable. I got a little emotional a few times during the game. It was just so good to see. We have arrived, guys. You know, Beard mentioned last week against Auburn, we were right there. Hey, we're there. Hey, guys, we're there. The team is there. We played Auburn right to the last. We had chances to win, free throws and other things that just couldn't quite make it happen. But this team is there. We're here to be reckoned with. I'd say like last night's first half was like a Picasso or a Monet or whatever, but it was definitely fun to watch.
Yeah, the funny thing is after the game, like Sean Padula had one turnover at like the 12-minute mark of the second half, and that was Ole Miss's only turnover for the game. And Chris Beard was joking about it. He's always wanted he called it a perfect game, to have a turnover-free game. So I imagine he's going to make Sean Padula hear about that for pretty much the rest of the year.
Yeah, I was trying to remember looking back when exactly was that. I didn't catch it. Must have been the second half. Things happened so quick, and it was such an enjoyable game. The second half has a little bit to be desired. They came back. They weren't laser focused, and several of the players just wasn't quite there. It's hard. It's tough when you get up, and you play so well, and coming back after the half, it's hard to get going sometime. But we fought through it. That's the key. We fought through it. Juju made several shots there at the end that really made a difference. And let's get ready to go down on a little business trip to LSU this Saturday.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in the third segment of this show. But Matt Morell, we finally had that game from Matt Morell that we've been waiting to happen. He was red hot from outside the three-point line, scored 24 points. He honestly looked closer to the Matt Morell that we expect as fans than he has recently. I don't know if that was because he was a little bit healthier. Maybe he was, because I did see him dunk in this game. If he gets healthy, I don't think we can understate how much of a boost it'll be for Ole Miss as a basketball team.
Yeah, we're going to get scary. Dick Vitale, he's going to start mentioning a lot. It was good to see. I was proud for him. I was emotional to see him play so well, shoot so well. Going through injuries, lower body injuries, I think it may be a knee. I don't know, lower back issues. I've had some of those myself, ankle injuries. So when you fight through those and you have a good game, it's good to see. I could see he was really happy. They interviewed him at SEC Network, and you could tell he had a lot of joy. He said it was tremendous for him. Hey, Brakefield, most improved player on defense. You never thought I'd say that. Awesome to see him play well. Drew Davis, great game. We got to have him every game. He's the glue that sticks his team together. And Juju, 10 assists, no turnovers. What? Awesome to see. Padula didn't have quite the game he had been, and that's okay.
He had 8 assists. He did have 8 assists.
Yeah, but scoring wise and defensive wise, he had a few blunders on defense, especially the second half. But he's a good player. He makes it happen, being the point guard. Him and Juju do a good job. And Dia, good to see him, especially the first half and early in the second half. He played well, shot well, took the ball to the hole, put the ball in the hole, made some of those moves that only he can make. Really proud of him. I think he kind of lost a little mental focus a few times late in the second half, but overall, great win for us over Kentucky, and most of all in SEC to look for a better seeding in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, if you look at the game, Ole Miss shot completely lights out. They shot over 60% in the first half and over 50% from three. They kind of kept that heat up throughout the whole game, ended up at nearly 55% shooting, 13 of 30 from three-point range. Again, only the one turnover. And the key in this game was the first half, they built the lead by having a better rebounding margin, or at least playing Kentucky even in the first half. In the second half, it started to get a little bit one-sided, and you can see that Kentucky was able to chip down on the lead. Ole Miss was up at one point by 27 points, I do believe. Fouls was at 14-16. I think it was a nice recipe for Ole Miss to win, and I just wish that one of those three-point shots in the last minute would have went down so Ole Miss could have hit 100.
Yeah, that would have been cool. I'd like to have seen that too, but Beard wasn't worried about that. It was a big win. He felt it. He knew it. It was poetry in motion, man. I enjoyed watching it. It was very nice. -8 on rebounds, and we know that's to be expected. It's probably going to happen the rest of the way. We just can't. They held a chalkboard or a dry erase board up during the huddle, so we'd know how many offensive rebounds that we had and they had, and total rebounds. So that was kind of funny to watch, to see. But it keeps it on their mind, keeps it on their heart, that when they get back in there, to go get those loose balls or go get that loose rebound, tip it up, tip it back out. Anything, whatever, to make that happen. But it was good to watch. Very excited. One turnover. I don't know. I'm trying to think back.
It was a fast break, and Padula, I think, got back tapped.
Okay. That's I'm glad I didn't remember. But it was, Beard seemed to be really happy. He was proud of that. He talked about Coach Knight. I think he feels a lot for Coach Knight when he was alive. That he taught him a lot about aggressiveness, and that's what he looked at. This new no-middle defense, let's talk about this a second. I don't let any secrets out, but there is a weakness, and Auburn ate it up. They saw very first play of the game against Auburn. We had the ball on one side, and Jani Broom had it up at the top of the key, and what did he do? Opposite corner. That's the key. And they hit the 3-pointers. If Bear's saying, okay, maybe they hit around 30, 35%, we'll be okay. And they would have if Auburn just shot 35%, but they shot 50. That was the problem. But that is the weakness. I'm just saying, and that's one of the weaknesses, maybe more. But my point, all these years, is that if they get the ball, we get it on one side. We try to get the guard to go to his offhand, get it on that one side, get it down to the bottom and trap, double team, try to get that air pass or the pass across court. And the issue is that's why they were trying to get it to the corner as quick as they could on the opposite side, or get it to the point, get it to the wing to the corner real quick. And they were very good to do that. And that ended up being the why we lost that game to Auburn.
And the reason Chris Beard's okay with that is the missed three-point shot from the corners likely going to produce a long rebound. If you get that rebound, you have a guaranteed numbers opportunity at the other end of the floor, and you can score easy. I mean, you can have a situation where they're shooting a three to get the game to 5 points. They miss it. You make a basket on the other end, and all of a sudden they're down by 10 points. That's the reason that Chris Beard is okay with that. And it has to warm your heart a little bit seeing the way they played defense in that first half, because they were absolutely tenacious.
Yeah, that first half, it was relentless, whatever you want to call it. It was fun to watch, good to see. As I said, I got emotional, maybe teary-eyed a few times just to see that, because I've been waiting all these years, and the Beard said he was going to bring it. We've been having faith. We've been talking about it. We've been saying, okay, Ole Miss is football school. Yeah, it is. But right now, I think, basketball is looking pretty good right now. I think getting to the NCAA tournament is going to be a normal thing.
All right, when we come back, we are going to talk about Ole Miss in the NCAA tournament and what this win did, and winning 2 wins out of 3 games at home, how it helps the Rebels moving forward. But first, I do want to let you know about Game Time. Are you looking for tickets to your next big event? Whether it's a concert or a comedy show or a sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a real headache. But with Game Time Picks, it is so easy. Let me tell you why. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals, so you do not have to waste time scrolling through endless ticket listings. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now, and here's why I love it. The curated deals make it super easy to find great seats at great prices. No more searching through thousands of options. I've recently snagged a super deal for a prime ticket at a concert in Tampa coming up. It's a Midland concert. I couldn't believe the value. It was a steal, but the seat view feature was the game changer. Before I even hit buy, I could see exactly what my view would look like from the venue. It is why the whole experience got made so much smoother. The best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund 100%, 10% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time every time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. So let's be ready to make the next event even better. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, so let's bring Tim back in and talk about this. This isn't Ole Miss. This win was a big deal because this is a home stretch where Ole Miss got 2 out of 3 games, and like you said, actually played pretty well against Auburn. Now they're going to go on the road, and we're going to talk about that in the next segment. But the NCAA tournament, this is 6-4 after 10 games in the SEC with 8 games left to go. They have to be in a good shape to end up as a 4 or 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, even with games at Florida, against Tennessee, and at Auburn coming up.
Yeah, I think Lenardi had us at 5 seed yesterday before the game was over. So we were up there already at a 5 seed. So I can see us maybe a 4 seed if things go well with LSU Saturday. I see that happening. And it's important. It's important that we get into dance. That's the main thing. But the next thing is after you get in and we feel like we're in pretty good shape, is that the seeding, of course. The lower seeding, so-called worst team that you'll play against. You'll be like play a 15 or 16 seed. So the better seeding we can get, the better off that we can work our way through, maybe get to the Sweet 16, which would be very, very interesting and very believable in my opinion.
Yeah, and Chris Beard, I do not think has lost a first-round game as a coach, and that's even whenever he was coaching at Little Rock. So if he gets to the tournament, his system works pretty well.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we've all mentioned defense travels, and this defense right here, all the guys, Jimmy Dykes last night was talking about it several times. We're good at defense. Our guys check their egos at the door. That's what's happened with the culture, they call it. We came in, the culture is there. You tell the guys when they speak at the post-game interviews that they want to play for each other. They're not worried about, any ego type things that some other teams, maybe Kentucky might have a few of those, and Arkansas may have a few of those. A lot of teams do. It's a big thing. The money being paid now these days, NIL. So being the team like right now, Beer's got it where he wants it. So I feel good about this thing. I don't see any problem getting an NCAA tournament, and I don't see any problem with us winning a few games. A lot of people's mentioned that we're like the old Texas Tech team, and that made it to the final too.
Yeah, once Ole Miss makes it into the field, and I've tried to talk about this on my show from time to time, this Ole Miss team can make a run. So whenever we talk about where they could go, it can happen, but it's going to be completely matchup dependent. I do think there are a couple teams that are out there that if Ole Miss runs into, they're going to have trouble with. I mean, it's just like real trouble. It's just not a good matchup right now. But if Ole Miss ends up with the right draw, this could be a second weekend type team.
Yeah, that's definitely true about the matchup. The thing about most people in these matchups, they don't have the defense that Ole Miss had. I haven't seen one close to it. Auburn plays very well, but when this team really wants to turn on the intensity, in the first half they did, let's go back to the Illinois game, the exhibition game. That's where I saw the potential. I said, if we can play like it against an Illinois, and then we went to Louisville and played up there in their place and beat them 25-30, whatever it was. And that defense was there. It travels, and we beat them up pretty bad there. They've won a lot of games. So both these teams have. So then I said, okay, we're okay. Then we played Purdue, and I said, okay, yeah, we made it to the last shot. Could have won that game, should have, would have, could have, but we didn't. I should have won that Texas A&M game, just didn't do it. But now we're set. We got 6-4, a good record. Everybody's looking at us. The national media is looking at us. So we've been on ESPN, the top channel, national channel, 2 games in a row, and we played really well. And this game last night against Kentucky, that was a cherry on the top.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. When we come back, we will turn the page to the LSU Tigers this weekend as Ole Miss continues its football revenge tour. All right, we are back, and we're going to move and turn our attention to LSU this weekend. The funny thing is, Ole Miss lost the game in football to Kentucky at home. They completely took Kentucky at home apart. Now they get to go down to Baton Rouge. Ole Miss football lost a football game in Baton Rouge. This is kind of a revenge tour. Chris Beard gets to kind of right a little bit too many wrongs that have been going on this football season, right, Tim?
Yeah, we've already beat them one time at home, but they're a decent team. They're fighting. They're in the bottom. Yeah, they're I guess there with Arkansas and South Carolina. I think they won 1 SEC game. So it's going to be tough at their place, but we just got to, like I said, take a business trip down there and play our defense like we know we can. And our offense came along last night. It was good to see that. I was worried about maybe some of these games. Some of these Kentuckys or Auburns, there's no way we could stay in these games if we didn't score enough. But with Matt Morell coming on and back to semi-normal, Drew Davis doing his thing, and our 2 guards, Padula, Murray, and then Brakefield did his thing. I don't see a problem. They got Matt McMahon's their coach, really good player. They got Cam Carter. He's really, really good. He's the star on the team. But, they're struggling. They'd probably be happy to maybe get thought of maybe in the NIT, and they're going to have to win some games to even get that far. So it's not a good year for them. They're a little depressed, a little sad. We just need to go on in and tip them over the edge.
Yeah, the opposite is true. The fact that this is probably the biggest stretch that Ole Miss basketball is entering of this season. Ole Miss had the tough beginning that they were able to get some wins and got to 6-4. Now you have at LSU, at South Carolina, Mississippi State at home, and at Vanderbilt. Those are all 4 games that you're probably going to be favored to win. And if Ole Miss can pull them off and all of a sudden you're 10-4 going to Auburn and playing Tennessee and Florida, that's just turns everything into a free shot, and you're playing for some really lofty seeding.
Yeah, I think we'll be favored in most of those games, even though they're away games. And, even away games, South Carolina, they're in the top 100 of the net. I think we're at 21 right now. So everything's looking good. Kim Palm has us favored in, I think, like 6 of the 8 next games. So we're looking good. It'd be hard to be a favorite against Auburn. Tennessee would be hard. I think Vandy should be a win. South Carolina should be a win. LSU this Saturday should be a win. Mississippi State, and we'll just see how things go.
That Ole Miss Tennessee game could be the biggest rock fight that we've seen in college basketball in a long time.
Yeah, Rick Barnes, they play a tough defense, a lot like ours, a little bit different the way they do things, switching and not switching, and it's not no middle exactly like we do it. But they play hard, they play tough, but they're susceptible. I've seen them play a few times. They're not quite as great as they were last year. They don't have a dog to connect. They have the kid Lanier really good, but a couple other guys that really make a difference. Ziegler's really good, the guard. He's been kind of banged up. So I feel like we could play with anybody. Down in the jungle in Auburn, that would be a tough task. Anything can happen. We went to Alabama, beat them at their place. But I feel good about this thing more than I ever have. I'm very happy, very excited, and proud to be Ole Miss Rebel.
Yeah, the final leg on the football revenge tour is the last conference game of the year, and that's in Gainesville at Florida.
Yeah, that's going to be a little tough down in the old swamp. As you talked about, there's swamps, there's alligators all up down the roads there. And when we get inside the O'Connell Center, there's going to be alligators trying to do a little rebel bait, I guess, a tiger bait. They used to say that all the time in the LSU. I remember they were the whole entire game, someone, I guess they were swapping, but it was tiger bait. And then the Gators have the old chump going on. So it's all these different, places have their own ways of doing things. And these away games are tough. I don't care if it's South Carolina and this game at LSU, it's going to be tough in the SEC.
Yeah, it's games that if you win, you can completely set your season up for heights that Ole Miss basketball hasn't seen, honestly, since probably Rob Evans.
Yeah, he promises this. Beard did the first, before he was hired. We talked about he had something in his past, his history that all of us have been through things. We've all sinned and we've fallen short. He done some things, or maybe didn't do anything. We won't go into any details, but I'm so proud of him. He said what he was going to do. Everywhere he's been successful. He's a great evaluator of talent. He does such a great job. He knows the kind of players he wants. He wants the Dre Davises, the Malik Diaz, and those type guys. He wants these guys in the portal. Sean Badula, perfect for him, perfect what we needed. All these guys, he knew what he was looking for. He always gets a couple freshmen, and Bowl hadn't played much, and Flasky hadn't played much either, but that'll be another year for them. But I feel good about our team. We're playing really well. We're playing teamwork. We're like a well-oiled machine.
This is a big 4-game stretch for Dre Davis. He was really good against Texas. He was really good against Kentucky. Almost got the win in both of those games. He kind of disappeared against Auburn, but a lot of people disappear against Auburn. For consistency's sake, if Dre Davis can continue to be one of those 10 to 12-point players over the next 4 games, Ole Miss has to be in pretty good shape.
Yeah, against Auburn, he got in foul trouble, and it's tough. I've been there before several times, actually. You get in foul trouble, just change your whole game. You can't be aggressive. You can't fight on the boards as well. Over the back, you're afraid about that. Let's talk a little bit about Sean Padula. He had some issues with Deny Broom on his back. There's an issue there. He's 6'11", Broom is, and Padula's around 6'1" or so. You still got to block him out. But Padula just kind of stood there and put his hands up. But I was known to be a great blocker. I could block out. I'd kind of get them. It's a family show. I'd kind of get my butt into their groin area, and then I would put my hands up and shield back. And you got to actually jump. You can't just stand there and wait for it to come to you. Padula just kind of stood there, and Broom just kind of reached over. But Padula would have jumped as hard as he could from where he was at. After you get a good butt into someone, sometimes you might come up and it might be all right. They'll call it. But you got to make it ever. You can't just stand there and let it wait on you. I noticed it about Padula. He's let that happen several times.
Yeah, and it was just one of those things everybody was talking about. And I think the announcer made the comment, is like, oh, he's so tall, he can't be doing over the back. And I understand what the guy was saying. And because you're right, the guy blocking out has to make an effort to get the ball so the over the back. But it kind of looked like the recess fight to where the kid has the hand on the forehead and he couldn't get it. That's basically what it turned into, because Padula didn't jump in those situations.
Yeah, like I said, you got to really get your butt into their groin area. And then when the ball comes, you got to jump with all your might straight up. And you might inadvertently hit their chin. You might inadvertently hit something else or whatever. I've put a few people out of the games with some of my blockouts. So it's just one of those things where you got to be tough. You got to be willing to jump. And for whatever reason, no one told him that he needed to jump. You can't just sit there and wait on it. Just like these passes, you say, oh, the guy made a bad pass. Well, what about the other guy? He's got to come meet the ball. Just some basic things that they go over, but sometimes in the games, it's hard to do those things.
All right. Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you very much for tuning in. Your team every day. Former Ole Miss player and show legend Tim Thomas giving his tips and tricks to rebounding, which I'm sure he has some tips and tricks that he developed over his years. But Tim, thank you very much for being on the show today, man.
Yeah, so sorry I got a little emotional. I got a little emotional a couple of times. I got emotional watching the game last night, but if you love basketball, Ole Miss basketball, and I do, it's been 40-something years, but I've watched it all these years, and I've hung in there some lean years, as you know. But it's looking good right now. I'm proud of this team, proud of Beard and all his coaches. They do a great job. So I'm looking forward to bigger and better things. LSU, let's go down there and beat some Tigers.
All right, Tim Thomas, thank you very much, buddy. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, howdy toddy.
Howdy toddy.